Hello, everyone, and welcome to Twillow Talk. And we are super excited today to have Rose Hope.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what we're going with? She's got two names. I'm just checking. I forgot to ask at the beginning.
I'm good with that. That sounds great to me.
Rose Hope. Okay. So let's go with Rose Hope, and we're so excited to have her here today with us. And of course, my beautiful co-host, Jennifer Jakowski. And let's just do a little round table and just introduce people to the audience so that they know who we are. So I am Tanis Coughlin from the Twillow Lifestyle Community, Twillow Lifestyle Academy, and I am a Reiki master and a channel and a Celtic Shamanic High Priestess, Galactic Ambassador, and I do stuff. That's my thing.
Lots of stuff.
I do lots of stuff. And Jen, do you want to fill us in on your stuff?
Y'all know my stuff. I am Jen Jakowski, of course, with Twillow and with My Holistic Self. And I am a registered psychotherapist, certified Canadian counselor, intuitive life coach, Sufia Kahina, ordained minister. I do Reiki master, all those kinds of energies and all that fun stuff and so much more.
We all do stuff.
Yeah.
Let's hear about your stuff.
Oh, my
Rose?
stuff. Well, hello, everyone. I am Rose Hope, also known as DeeAnne Riendeau, and I am so happy to be here. Firstly, thank you so much for having me on Twillow Talk today. So yeah, stuff. What stuff do I do? Well, I specialize in the Akashic Records. That's my jam. That's my wheelhouse. I've deeply fallen in love and become very passionate about that connection with Source. I am, of course, a channeler, a medium. The list goes on. NLP practitioner, trainings up the yin yangs, degrees and certificates and all of those things. But really, truly, what I love to do is to help guide people as they move through their spiritual journey on this beautiful planet that we are on.
Awesome. Do you want to tell us about any special projects you've got going on that you want to bring forward?
Oh gosh, there's always special projects, but one of my favorite, top of my list, is a book called The Ark that I've been working on for a decade. It's taken some time, but it is a channeled book. So they decide when, and not up to me. I learned that in the early stages when I was like, I got to get this book done. And they said, no, we decide. I said, okay, I'm surrendering. And so that book is about a woman, and it is based loosely off my own near-death experience where I went and was surrounded by angels. And so it's about a girl who goes into the angel realm, and what does she learn there, and what does she do there, and how does she come back now into this earthly plane and then share the wisdom with the world. So that is the premise of that beautiful book. So it's a nonfiction, fiction. It's kind of got a little bit of everything in it, right? So I'm really excited, and hopefully that'll be coming out again on their timeline, but I'm thinking it's later this year.
Did you get that?
Fingers crossed. Yeah. Later this year, guys. Okay. Yeah.
We do have to plan here on the 3D.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's my special project. And then of course I'm always teaching classes, and I love to teach, as you ladies do as well, and very passionate about sharing the Akashic Records with other people and helping them to build their confidence in their own abilities, because we've got some very gifted people on this planet that just haven't realized it yet, right?
It's true. Yeah, they're all being called right now.
Yes, summoned in droves. Yes,
they are, and they're coming to us, right? Like I get new people all the time that are so gifted, and they're like, I don't know what to do on my spiritual journey. I'm like, okay. Let's talk this through. Let's have a little chat.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Because everybody's capable of doing these kinds of things, but it's about really like doing your own work.
It is,
and working on all of your stuff.
That's
it's
it.
That word again, stuff. That's not our word of the night, but it could be.
Yeah, it could be. Could be. But it's true though. We need to be willing to work on our stuff, right? To access all of that goodness that we have stored inside of us. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so we usually talk about the transits. So is there any transits coming in, Jen, that we need to know about? She's a human design specialist, so she does that.
Well, oh yeah, we didn't talk about that one. That's okay. Yeah, so actually as of this morning, we shifted into gate 30 for the sun. So this one is actually pretty cool in that it's really about that deep feeling. In the Gene Keys, they talk about it going desire, lightness, rapture, right? We're looking at this kind of up and down that we're going to feel and that we're going to experience. And sometimes we're in the high highs and sometimes we're in the low lows. And right now we're going to be kind of riding that wave because it's really about recognizing the feelings that are coming in to push us towards change. Right? So once we recognize those, then the emotion to change can be conceptualized into action, right? And so we may have this kind of moment of, there's the pain or there's the sadness, but they're there not as a stumbling block or something to stop us from moving forward. They're really there as that catalyst that we need to move towards change, right? So going into the feelings as opposed to trying to push them away, which we talk about so much on the show, right?
Yeah.
Riding that wave, surrendering to it in a lot of ways, not in the sense of, oh my goodness, I'm depressed, but oh wow, look at that sadness. What is it here to tell me? What is it to move me towards? What is it that I need to maybe let go of? What is it that I need to maybe bring creativity in to change, right? So really about kind of embracing the wholeness of that. And, the other thing I want to just bring in really quick with this, because I love, again, Richard Rudd with the Gene Keys and the way that he embraces this idea, because one of the things that he talks about when it comes to desire, because that's one of those, it's one of those words. And we oftentimes feel like, oh, well, I have this desire and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not so good, right? And I love that he talks about the fact that there is no holy or unholy. It's not really about that at all. And when we try to judge what this desire is within us, we can bring in heaviness, we can bring in guilt, we can bring in shame, we can bring in so many things. But in order to move from desire to lightness to rapture, it's really about looking at the equanimity of it, right? And where do I need to move in order to be able to really get to that lightness? What do I have to release? What do I have to maybe move through? And then once I get there, can I embrace that to the point of rapture?
Very cool.
So that's a lot for us.
Big week.
Yeah.
So we've also had some big solar storms lately. I think we've had like 26 or something in the last week and a half. And we had an X-class coronal mass ejection. So for those of you that aren't aware of what that is, it's basically when there's a storm on the sun's surface and it spits out plasma towards the earth, and it kind of, it happens all the time. We're not talking like asteroid catastrophe. But this is a big
To be clear, the world is not ending.
The world is not ending. No, I just want to make sure that, when people don't understand, they jump to conclusions, right?
Yeah.
So it's not that. It's just that it hits our atmosphere and it gives us a little nudge. And so the world just kind of vibrates higher for a brief time. And so that happened. We had a big X-class one, which is one of the biggest. I think it was on, not yesterday, day before. What was that? Saturday, around 2:00. They usually take 2 to 3 days for us to feel them here on Earth because of the space and all that, the light years away and all that kind of stuff. And so we'll be feeling that over the next couple of days, I would think. That's going to be
goody.
Yeah, it's light. It's a very good thing, actually, really, right? Because it's really, it does bring in light. That's what it is bringing light into the earth and raising the vibration and stuff. But of course, when we bring in light, all that density that we've got stored up inside decides it's coming out, right? And if we resist it, then we have even more.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's pretty neat that the transits are such that we're moving from that into that lightness as we're having all of these things actually happening.
Yes.
In space.
Isn't it great? I think it's just validation of the harmony that is happening in this beautiful universe that we live in, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I know that people talk, there's a lot of stuff happening in the world, a lot of political stuff and all of that, but you have to have the chaos to spur change. Like, people aren't going to change if they don't have an impetus, right? To move forward and do something differently. And so some of what we're having is that, I think. So anyway, that's enough about political stuff. But so we were talking about whether we should talk about love or whether we should talk about our cards. We always pick a card, Soul's Journey Lesson Cards by James Van Praagh, simply because they have topics, and that's basically what we do here on Twillow Talk. So I thought what I would do is pick a card, and we'll try and tie it into love. So we kind of have two themes today.
Yeah.
Okay. How does that sound?
Best of both worlds. I love it.
Wouldn't it be funny if we picked love as a card?
Right? Yeah.
Or the opposites, right? That would be interesting too. Let's see what we get. So what are you going to give us today? I usually wait till they jump out, but then, this one maybe. Oh, there we go. All right, it's not love. It is balance, though. Ooh. So I bring a state of perfect harmony into my world, and I do so without judgment.
Now that is love.
That is love. The phrase is love, right? Absolutely. Yeah. So balance and love. There we go.
Brilliant.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what comes to mind when we talk about balance and love?
I just love the action on that card, right? And the idea of balance. And I mean, truly, when we talk about love of self, love of other, love of universe, love of creation, whatever it is, there's balance in that, right? And there has to be, in order for love to really be expressed and experienced.
Yeah, isn't that so true? You know, what I find so interesting about this too is that there's this theme of people being pulled in all these different directions right now. And I don't know if that's been coming up for you ladies in your clients or your students, but people kind of feeling this challenge around being called to this place of spiritual dumb, or whatever you want to call it, finding themselves going into other dimensions of consciousness, the 5D, the 7D, et cetera, and then having to come back into this 3D space and be like, ugh, I don't like how it feels here. And I'm seeing a lot of people almost rejecting. Hey, reject, right? Right?
I'm like, I kind of like it out there. Can we stay out there?
Right? Can we just stay in this other space? But here's the thing, though, is that we're being invited and called to understand that one dimension is not better than the other, that they all serve a divine purpose, and they all are needed to work harmoniously together. And so as people start to see more, you know, as we're doing this zigzag, you know, of like 3D, 5D, back to 3D, it feels like a big stretch in between. Like, it feels almost jarring. You know what I'm talking about? Oh, yeah. And so the invitation might be for people to recognize that rather than resisting that, you know, that groove, that flow, to really allow yourself to recognize and come into space of gratitude and come into that space of acceptance and honoring and befriending whatever it is that you are rejecting. So if it's a 3-dimensional state, how can we ask for forgiveness? How can we forgive this state? How can we ask for forgiveness for us rejecting it? How can we deepen this bond and this relationship with that, so that when we are moving into these other dimensions of consciousness, that we can come back into all layers of consciousness and feel really good no matter where we are. So we're just really allowing that flow to take place. So that's what really came to mind in that, is understanding that as we move into these deeper states of consciousness, consciousness and can allow ourselves to be in those states, that we can still honor all the other states, that they are not less than. However, they are just providing a different opportunity and different experience for us to move through this beautiful adventure of life.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why we chose to come here.
Right?
Right? Yeah. Because we came to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the value of being here, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that releasing of judgment is huge when we talk about both balance and love. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And if we really want to embrace these higher states, then in this dimension, we have to be able to release that judgment that we have around it. Right? Because we don't want to hold any of those lower vibrational energies. Right? The idea is that we want to bring all of that into our experience, no matter where we are.
I love that you added that in there, Jen, because I think this piece of judgment, someone said, well, Judgment Day is coming. I said, no, it's not Judgment Day. It's Compassion Day. It's actually where we fall away from judgment, and there is no more judgment. We don't get caught up in that, well, this is a good experience and that's a bad experience. We just move into this place of acceptance and learning and growth and flow. And then all of a sudden life does get easier. It reminds me, actually, there's a story about a farmer and his horse, and it's a prize stallion. And it's the farmer's bread and butter. And one day the prize stallion, you guys might know this story, prize stallion goes missing. Can't find the stallion anywhere. And the neighbors come over and they say, oh my gosh, this is the worst news ever. What are you going to do without your prized horse? And how are you going to make money? And they're panicking and they're, oh my goodness. And the farmer says, he shrugs, he says, who knows what's good or bad? We'll have to wait and see. So of course, the next day comes along, and now the horse comes with a herd of wild horses. And the neighbors come over and they say, oh my gosh, this is the best day ever. You got your horse plus all these other horses. And the farmer says, who knows what's good or bad? We'll have to wait and see. And the next day comes along, and his son is out training these new horses, and he gets bucked off and he breaks a leg. And the neighbors come over and they say, oh, this is the worst news ever. What are you going to do without your son? Oh, blah, blah, blah. And the farmer says, who knows what's good or bad? We'll have to wait and see. And the next day comes along, and the army comes to town, and they're taking all the fit soldiers. Well, they can't take the son. He's got a broken leg. So you could see how this story could go on for an eternity. Yes. But, we get so caught up in this, in this narrowed lens, and we say, oh, that's bad. Like, that's not a good experience, or that's a bad situation, or whatever. But we haven't allowed for all the pieces of the puzzle to come to light yet. Right.
Exactly.
And so this idea around judgment, it's not just about judging others, or judging yourself. It's about judging your experience here. And perhaps there's an opportunity for us to just start looking with a little bit more of a neutral lens as we continue to move forward. And that in itself will create more balance and harmony.
Yeah. Well, that's how you start stepping into that unconditional love, right? Because the conditions is the judgment. That's how we judge.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I always go back to the quote, right? Nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Right. And the labels and the judgments and everything that we hold in our mind dictate how we feel about an experience. But ultimately, it's all just experience.
Yeah,
it is. And it's what we take from it that makes a difference.
Yeah, how we choose to respond to that, right? Yeah. And I think that's something that, a lot of us miss. We kind of forget that we have a choice, Yeah. And my daughter was an example the other day. She's 12 years old, and she's like, Mom, I can't help how I feel, because someone said that you can't choose how you feel, that you can't help how you feel. But I argued that with her a little bit. And I said, really? I'm like, so if you wanted to be happy, could you not, think a happy thought and start changing how you feel? And she goes, oh, wait, maybe that could be the case. And so it's this reminder for all of us that we get to choose how we respond to the experience. That's all in our hands.
That's right.
That's up to us to decide that. And again, when we can consciously choose how we respond, then all of a sudden it's like it creates this balance and this freedom. Yeah. This freedom that we're not held hostage by our feelings, that we're not even held hostage by our thoughts. We even have a choice in that. Oh my God, we are so powerful.
Well, we are. We're creator beings. We are powerful.
But that can also be very scary for people, right?
Can.
And I find that often with clients, when we get to a place where we can embrace that power, we go, holy crap, I have that power. Right. And that's a whole new world for a lot of people.
You're so right about that. And I think that's been a challenge for a lot of people because they're still afraid of that. Like, what does that mean? And you know what I've been finding historically, especially using the Akashic Records on a regular basis with clients, is that a lot of them have deep wounded trauma from lifetimes where they were told that they weren't powerful, that they had to be unseen and unheard, that they had to hide themselves and play it small. But then the reverse of that, people who became very powerful and were forced to do things that they didn't really want to do, but and got caught up in the, oh my gosh, I'm responsible for the death or the struggle or the suffering of these people. So we've got these two aspects coming in for people. And so they're saying, oh, I don't want the power. Either I'm going to do something bad with it or have to be forced to do something with it, or I'm going to be condemned if I step into my truth. Because many, many people who were told to be quiet, told to keep it small, were persecuted in their history, right? In their soul history. Yeah, you're one of them. Me too. We all are.
Yeah, all of us are.
We've all been persecuted, right? Condemned, tortured, exiled, etc., for stepping into this power. And so no wonder people are saying, I don't know if I really want that. Like, that's scary to me, right? It's a no wonder. I love the energy of no wonder, by the way. Because when we can say, no wonder I did that thing. No wonder I feel this way. No wonder, it's like it takes some of that pressure off. So I just wanted to highlight that energy of no wonder, because I use it all the time with the kids even. Oh, no wonder you did that, And it just changes the energy completely. And it allows us to have deeper compassion for ourselves when we're beating ourselves up for not stepping into our power, or for not doing the thing that, we see other people doing. Right. So, yeah.
It's true. Yeah. Like in that context, that not stepping into our power to be successful, right? Because people are afraid of success as well. And that's because it's power, right? Success in our modern day is often about power. It doesn't have to be, of course. Success is a personal thing. Right.
Yeah. And when I think of power, I don't think of power as in having power over others. I think of power as having total power over myself.
Yeah.
And that personal power, when we have the strength in our personal power, we don't have a need to control other people, by the way.
That's right.
We don't have a desire to even influence them, because when we're standing in our personal power, we are naturally influencing them. We don't have to make an effort to influence. We simply do by our energy field, by our thinking, by our behaviors, by whatever that is. That, to me, that is that sense of deep personal power.
Yeah.
And even if we're not, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Even if we're not, it doesn't matter.
Because we're exactly where we're meant to be in this moment. Right?
Always.
So.
Yes. Yeah. Always exactly where we need to be. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, again, we're talking about balance. And as you're talking about no wonder, I love I wonder.
Yeah. That's the other side of that.
Having in that balance of it, right, is no wonder for sure. Like, we have all of this stuff that we carry with us, and it's from past lives, it's generational, it's everything, right? And also, it doesn't have to define who we are. So we can wonder, okay, who do I want to be in this moment? Who do I want to show up as? How do I want to respond? What's going to honor the me I want to be right here, right now? I wonder. What does that person look like?
I love you. It's such a beautiful combo with the no wonder and the I wonder. I think if we If we play in those spaces, yeah, it's a fun place of
Oh, I've got
curiosity.
tingles. It's like it's got to be the logo. No wonder I wonder.
No wonder I wonder. There you go.
Yeah, there's so much you can do with that. Yes.
Maybe that's a whole new show, guys.
Right? I think it could be.
Right?
It
I
could
think
be.
maybe it needs to
Onto something. Oh my gosh. Love it so much. Yeah.
And then really love is intertwined in all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we say, well, no wonder, instead of bringing in the judgment, we bring in the compassion.
Yeah.
No wonder. Of course. I did the best I could do with what I knew how to do in the moment. I couldn't do any differently. Now I can. So I wonder what that will look like. Right? And how much has to go into that.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Yes.
It's all love. It's all love. Yeah.
Well, and those two statements are like the balance that we've got in our card too, right?
Mm-hmm.
They create that balance.
That beautiful.
Sorry, you were going to say something.
Well, I was just going to speak to this energy of love, and recognizing that we're all made of pure love. If we really want to, let's bare bones it, right? When you think about source energy, God, whatever your belief system is, that is the energy of pure love. And we can't even fully define it. I don't think we can even wrap our heads around it quite exactly. But to sense into that energy of love. And I remember a client once, and she said, well, I don't even know if I know what love is. And so we started playing around with experiences that she had where she thought it might be love, right? And we started to pull at these threads. And then all of a sudden, we had this big definition of what love meant to her. And so I want to invite people that are listening to define love for themselves and tap into the frequency of love for themselves. What if you've never truly experienced love, or at least you don't think you have on some level, or if you've struggled to receive it, can you think about what it would feel like just to touch it, just to imagine what it would be like. And as soon as you allow yourself to imagine what that would be like, all of a sudden that love just pours in and it pours in and it pours in, right? And it is innate within us, just like happiness is innate inside of us. That's all innately given. But we forget because, again, we get clouded by all of these conditionings and these things and experiences and these limited beliefs, etc. And so beneath those layers is this essence of pure love. And each and every one of you has that. You don't need to look outside of yourself even for it. It doesn't come from outside of yourself. It is found right here. Yeah,
absolutely.
Right here. Yeah. I just love that.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So we have a question for you, Rose.
Yes. Oh, yes. Okay. Thanks for asking so much. I hope I say your name right. You've got
it's Ming.
In your name. It's Ming? Oh, just
Ming.
Okay. I was going to say the whole thing, but Ming. Thank you, Ming. Yes. So absolutely. I love teaching the Akashic Records. So I do teach the Akashic Records. You get a certificate of completion with a specialization in the Akashics. So we go doing a deep spiritual dive. So we don't just say, here's the Akashic Records, here's how you do it. We go on a bit of a journey as well. And there's a lot of healing, clearing, upgrades, and things like that in the course. I do it in 3 levels. So I've got level 1 where you learn how to do it for yourself. Level 2, you learn to do it for others. And level 3 is like a top up to be able to do groups and things like that. So it's just a quick little workshop. But I do suggest Linda Howe's book, How to Read the Akashic Records. So I was trained through the Center for Akashic Studies with Linda Howe. And so I love her book, How to Read the Akashic Records by Linda Howe. And her last name is Howe Ming. So just so you know, Howe is how you spell her last name. And that's a great book. So that everything you need is in that book. What I find is most people that get the book, they get excited and they get into it, but then they feel a little bit lost and alone in that journey, and they hit some road bumps, but you certainly can self-teach it. Okay. So I don't want anyone to think that they have to take training or pay for training necessarily, but it certainly helps to build the confidence when you're with a group of people that are there to support you and love you through the process as well. But that would be my top recommend for you.
And what's the name of the book?
I'm just typing it in. How to read the Akashic. It's actually sitting right here.
Oh, there we go.
Records. So you can buy it on Amazon. This one's been well used. You can see how nice and they've been wet. They've been, saged.
Perfect.
That's what the book looks like right there. And I love Linda Howe's teachings and how she's taught. Yeah, absolutely. She's fantastic. And they're great to work with as well. So they've actually, even though I'm not an instructor through their program, they've given me their blessing to also teach their pathway prayer process as well. So, I love to give them a shout out whenever I can. Yeah, fantastic.
Absolutely. That's great.
Awesome.
So self-love.
Back to love.
Ming has another comment there too about love.
Oh, yes. There we go.
Gold light.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what, Ming? It comes in as gold light to me too. So when I'm doing, my meditations and things like that, I often see gold light as well. For other people, though, it might show up differently. I know some people that they see rainbows of light. I know people that see the pinks and the reds as well. And sometimes we've got some angelic presence coming in. And so the angelic presence, depending on who that might be, they bring in different colors of energy as well. When I had my near-death experience, it was so profound. So I'll just give a little quick backstory here. I had two near-death experiences. The first one, I was 5, I choked and had an out-of-body experience. The second time, I was an adult. And let me tell you, I was recovering from knee surgery and I had some complications with the medications and whatnot. My blood pressure dropped and I went completely unresponsive. And where I went is what I would describe as heaven. It was so euphoric and it was so full of that pure love energy. I mean, purest of pure love. Like I can't describe it into words because it's not possible. But what I did see were these beautiful orbs of light, and they were all different colors. And so there would be an orb and then another orb of color. And these were the brightest colors I'd ever seen in my life. And I remember feeling so at home there and so amazed there. I was ready to stay. And, I heard the angels, as in many near-death experiences, they said, "You're not done yet. You've got work to do." And I remember almost resisting that, but being like, "Oh, okay, fine. I'll go back." And so I wanted to bring that to the surface because, as Ming mentioned, she sees it as gold light. Again, we're all going to see a different kind of experience that pure love energy differently. And when I went to this space with the angels and the colors that I saw were so incredibly vibrant, there was a glimpse of seeing really that prism, that spectrum of color as well. So beautiful. I don't think there's a right or wrong necessarily, but just wanted to share that. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you find that enhanced your gifts?
Oh, yes. So especially when I was 5, because after that experience, my dreams became super lucid. I was having sleep paralysis. Like I was having premonitions like on the regular. And I remember my mom being like, "I don't really know what to do with you."
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with you. So of course I started suppressing those. And I suppressed them for about 20 years. And it was interesting because my first career was actually in EMS. So I was an EMT and firefighter. It was my first career. And I remember very, very clearly being with dead bodies and feeling the energy of their spirits, but not understanding it. I remember thinking like, "Oh my God, I must have PTSD. Like I'm losing my mind." Like I had one client, it was an older woman, and she had passed in her sleep. but I was helping the police to roll her, take pictures, do all their stuff. So I was with her body for quite a long time. And I remember kind of feeling her presence, and it creeped me out. And I was so glad to get out of there. But then when I got home, I could feel her with me still. I had 3 showers. I washed my clothes several times. I was like, what is this EBGB feeling? I hadn't quite connected the dots at that time. I just thought maybe I was losing it a little bit. And I think this happens for a lot of people. And that's why I think it's being brought up here, because if you're listening and you've, had these gifts, or you've noticed these gifts, a lot of times you feel like you're maybe a little too far out there, that maybe people will perceive you as crazy, or that you are going crazy. And it can be a very lonely time as you move through that. So I was pretty alone in my early 20s in that career, but was dealing with a lot of those things that I was seeing and experiencing and witnessing, as well as having experienced the trauma in the extrinsic world. And so I could feel it pulling at me at that time already. But when I had my second near death, I was 26 years old. And after that, it was like a massive overthrow. Like the catalyst was so significant for me. I was like, there was no looking back. There was no looking back. However, even though I started to deepen this aspect of my spirituality and connection and understanding that there was more out there, I was still very held hostage in this 3D world. I really was. Yeah. Because I understood what I needed to do to be successful. And I was an overachiever. So, I needed to start a family, and I needed to have a very, the $1 million lifestyle. Like I was really still dialed into that. And I could feel myself literally being torn in that time. So I had about 5 years of like torment where I was like, I know that there's more, but I can't quite get there. And I'm stuck over here. And it was like this really difficult time. And I did end up having babies in that time. And that led to some postpartum and some other stuff that was really significant. And so it took until after my son was born, my second child, when I was in a very deep place of despair. And I got to that point where I was like, okay, either I cease to exist, or you show me what I really need to do, what I need to see here. And I had an angel come that showed me my path, and I've never looked back since. So it wasn't like an immediate, like some people say, oh, you're so lucky to have a near-death experience to catalyze the process. And I say to people all the time, you don't need to have a near-death experience. No. Please don't self-induce a near-death experience. It's not required. It's not required.
Not necessary. Not necessary.
Like, can it be a catalyst? Can it expedite? It can.
Of course.
But we also need to choose it too. And we also need to be ready to choose it. So even though after my second near death, there was like an immediate shift, I was still in this, like, I don't even know what to call it, the purgatory almost between, stepping in and then still being very stuck in ego. So it took me a while to kind of figure that out. Yeah. And so I share that so people can, again, be graceful and compassionate with themselves, so that they're not beating on themselves as they move through the process. It does sometimes take a little bit of moving and figuring out, doesn't it? Yeah.
It does. Yeah. I had the same sort of thing. I was like in 2 jobs that I wasn't supposed to be in because I was supposed to be doing this work. And, burned out twice because I'm a slow learner, So that's what I was. I'm a slow learner. So I had to go through it twice. It was almost identical situations, because the first time I was being stubborn and I'm like, no, I have to do this. Because I was going into management, in healthcare. And I'm like, I need to be the breadwinner and do the whole, like the success, what we think is successful in society. And 2 burnouts later, I'm like, okay, there's got to be a better way to do this.
Right. Yeah.
I think that right there is the bigger catalyst. I mean, a near-death experience can show you things, but it's when you get to that point of surrender, when you know you can't do it anymore, and you give that power over, that you allow space for spirit to come in and go, all right, now we're rolling.
Yes. Amen to that. I think you're right. I think it is the surrendering part of like really learning to trust, learning to trust. And one of the big things I've been really focusing on is building this relationship with my God mind, my higher self, lots of different names for the higher self, but I call it my God mind. And it is the aspect of me that is directly connected with God, that extension of spirit or source energy. And I've been really building that beautiful relationship, having conversations with my God mind, affirming my God mind, validating that it really knows what it's doing. And the more that I trust that, oh my gosh, you guys, my life is ease and flow, and everything that needs to show up does show up. Even the stuff that I don't love, I recognize that it's got a place. And I can move through it with much more grace and ease in doing that. So that trust is kind of, it's loving yourself enough to trust that even though you are a co-creator, that there is some energy that's beyond us that has the power to know exactly what we need, even if we don't. Right?
And when we get out of the way,
that's
exactly
for it to
precisely.
And invite them to show us, right? Because we have free will, so they can't interfere unless we ask. So we have to invite them in terms of inviting them to help us along the way,
Well, and that's it. And I know we've talked about it on other shows and all, but similar to both of you, one of the biggest catalysts for me was when I just went, okay, I've messed it up so many times. I'm done. I'm done figuring it out. You got to tell me what to do. And then it was boom, 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 boom. Life-changing.
Right? Yes. That surrender, that sweet surrender. It is, it's a tricky one for many of us because it's scary to do that.
Yeah.
But oh my gosh, the gift in that is significant, as you know. Yeah. It's beautiful. I love that. Yeah. So such a great way to love ourselves is to surrender and say, I don't know what the F I'm doing. Please help me, show me,
Exactly.
I'm going to get through your way now and just let you do your thing,
Yeah, it's that resistance, right? The resistance is what creates the angst.
I often, think in my mind, like what our spiritual team, what our angels, what God thinks as we are moving through this life. And I'm like, man, thank God they are so literally, thank God that they're so already in this space of acceptance and compassion that they're not sitting there being like, what the hell is she doing again?
Yeah.
He's now in the way and we can't get through, we're trying to help and they're not listening. You know what I mean? So,
I'm pretty sure mine do that still.
Right?
There's a few of them that I'm like, you just rolled your eyes.
Thank God we have a sense of humor, right? Thank goodness for that sense of humor. Yeah.
But truly, when we think about that in the oneness and the universality of all things, it isn't good or bad. It doesn't matter. What we do in this journey, it's all part of a journey, and it's okay.
Yeah. And it is okay. Yeah.
But we long for this idea that somehow the 3D picture is going to suddenly be, painless. Or that it's going to no longer have suffering, or that it's just going to be easy. And it's like, well, no, you get to a place where you can just ride the ride.
Right. Ride the waves of it, right? We go through waves of it.
I love that you said that because it wasn't very long ago. I had my sister-in-law over and I was, telling her about some drama that had shown up in my life. I said, oh my God, this drama. She goes, but Dee, you're so enlightened. You don't have issues. You don't have drama. And I said, whoa. First of all, the more enlightened I am, the more unenlightened I realize I am. But secondly, even the most enlightened people will still have challenges and still have drama shows up. The difference is they handle or respond to that experience differently. That's the difference, right?
Exactly.
There's always going to be stuff, right? Tennis flying around.
Absolutely.
that is trying to up level us. And I want the stuff because I know that every time I get the stuff, I'm being challenged, I'm being upgraded, I'm getting more out of it. So again, we get to choose whether we leverage that experience, how we alchemize it. And so, reminding people that no matter how evolved you are, you will still experience those challenges that we're faced with, so that we can keep rising to the occasion. That's really what it's about. Yeah.
That's why we're here, because we have to learn how to deal with the stuff. Yeah. There's that word again.
Yeah. And then the stuff itself isn't good or bad. It's just stuff.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right. Yeah. I'm reminded of the teaching with the Zen master and the scorpion. I don't know if you guys know that one, where the Zen master, his student comes up to him and he's leaning into a hole and he's trying to pick up a scorpion. And the student says to the Zen master, "What are you doing? You know that scorpion's going to sting you." Then the Zen master reaches in and he starts to lift the scorpion and it stings him and drops it back in. And he goes, "Oh," and he treats the wound, tries it again. And the student's like, "You know better. What are you doing?" Right? And the Zen master goes about his business, and eventually, it's a longer story, goes through all of it. But what ends up happening is the Zen master then says to the student, "It doesn't matter. The scorpion is the scorpion. By nature, it will do that. But I am who I am, and by nature, I have to help." Right? Yeah. And so sometimes we are going to experience things just because of the nature of who we are and who we want to be in this lifetime. It doesn't mean that the nature of everybody else is going to just immediately align to that. Everybody has their own journey and their own process, but we have to be okay with whatever shows up because we're being who we want to be. Right?
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I haven't heard that one before, Jen. So that's great.
That's really great.
Yeah, it is. Now, Ming had asked a question. Did we?
Yes. I had put it up and then we got off on a tangent.
Yeah, so. We did.
Which is totally fine.
It's probably my fault.
No. It's all good. It's all good.
We do that.
It's the energy. We're just going with the waves like we were talking about.
Yeah.
So who are you inviting in? Example, God, universe, angels, aliens. Yeah, it's your spirit team, which could be all of that. Right? We could be inviting any of those in at any given time, depending on what we're needing help with, or we just invite source. Like, it just depends on your belief system. Really, I mean, there's different ways of thinking about this, that the different beings are just different qualities of energy that you're calling into your life in the big scheme of things. And those qualities of energy have a consciousness and they present as beings. Which is really all we're doing too, by the way, but in many ways, right? We're just a consciousness that's presenting ourselves with certain energetic qualities at any given moment. We just happen to be in a body at the same time. So, yeah.
I do want to put a caveat on this though. And you know me, I have to put a caveat on that. If you're not used to feeling into different energies.
Yes.
And you're not used to knowing what energies are what or differentiating, go to love.
Yeah.
Whatever is love energy in that moment, whether it's coming from God's source or if God wants to send a messenger, but go to love, right? So whatever that ultimate source is for you, whether you call it universe, you call it God, you call it, love directly, universe, however you want to do that. But it's about inviting the ultimate reality that is just pure love. So we don't have to necessarily think of it as a specific entity per se.
Exactly.
But you invite that love into your life and you allow it the ability to guide you.
I love that you added that in there because I think it's also very important, when people are starting to play with this stuff, I think it's important that that they do a little bit of research or have some guidance on it because, and this isn't about fear and you being afraid of who you're going to invite in, but I really like to be clear about who I'm connecting with. And that's why I love the Akashics, because I say a prayer that's very intentional and I say a closing. So I'm not leaking energy or getting riffraff in the space. Right.
Yeah.
But one of the simple things to do is to just be very clear that when you are opening yourself up and you're saying, okay, spirit team, I welcome anyone or any entity who is here with the deepest love and compassion for me and my highest good, or some phrase like that.
Yeah.
So then you're really being intentional about what you're opening yourself up to. So just another piece to add to that too, because I think, I've seen some people just open themselves up and they get all sorts of interesting things happening.
Yeah, we don't want that with people.
Yeah.
Right.
And when I said inviting in, it was more about asking them for help.
Yes.
As opposed to inviting them in.
Yes.
It was asking for their guidance is what I meant by that. So just to modify what that meaning was, that was what I was referring to. Yeah. So it wasn't about invoking or evoking. So just to be clear. Yeah.
Big difference.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to be doing that yet. That's definitely not something you do without training.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the ask is so important, I think, and we are being guided always, I like to say, in every given moment, we have everything we need and then some. So, reminding us that we are always being guided, but it sure does expedite the process and get us closer, to where we want to be when we ask the questions, right? Yeah. So it's a wonderful tool to just ask and you shall receive. That exactly. Saying is there for a reason.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah. Well, and it's that metaphor of a gift, right?
Yeah.
Somebody can give you a gift and it can be sitting right there, but if you don't receive it, open it, embrace it, use it, it just doesn't mean you don't have it.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So I think this one is for you. So what do you say to close out?
So to close out of the records, I use, a few different variations. I use Linda Howe's closing, but I have been gifted a very simple closing to actually close out of the records. That's specific to the records. And it's a thank you, followed by the records are now closed. Amen. And I say amen 3 times. So it's a very simple process. But if we're just say we are calling in our spirit team and we're done with our spirit team, thank you is always the best place to kind of start that closing. And so a thank you, a gratitude, and then stating, either that you are close with this experience with them, or that this experience is complete, or my correspondence is complete. And I'll be honest, sometimes I just end up falling asleep if I'm working with my spirit team. Then I just fall asleep and they close it for me. My mom used to say, she says, Dee, when you start a prayer, and if you fall asleep during that prayer, God finishes it for you.
Yeah.
And so I'm of a firm believer too, that with my spiritual team, that they will help me and support me in that process as well. I like to do it for my logical mind so that it's like tangible that I've closed it. So I'm not leaking energy anywhere. But I also have this deep trust that my team will take care of it too. And so I've got that closure as well. That's like my backup, right? So, I mean, you can say any variation of what you wish to, Ming, in terms of what feels right for you. But the thank you with an amen or a clear statement of closure is usually sufficient. Yeah.
Yeah. I know for me, when I'm closing out, when I'm closing out a circle or something, it is a gratitude. It's a thank you, and go if you must, stay if you will.
Ah, beautiful. Yeah.
So that way I'm not like kicking them out, But if they got to go, you can go. I'm done, so you can go. Yeah. But if you want to stay and help, I'm happy.
I love it. Yeah. You're not just a people pleaser, you're a spirit pleaser too.
I try. Yeah.
I love that. It's so beautiful.
Well, and the reality is our spirit guides, guardian angels, ascended masters, they're here and they're gone and they're back again. And they only linger for as long as they're able. So we don't necessarily have to close those.
Yeah.
Right. But I love the way that you do it.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, oftentimes I'm having a council meeting with my divine spirit team at bedtime and I fall asleep, and I trust that they're doing what they need to do and I'm doing what I need to do, Well,
and it's only the physical body that sleeps, right? Our consciousness continues anyways, and they continue the meeting, and if we need to know about it, they'll let us know in the morning.
That's
but
right.
Otherwise,
yeah. It comes back to trusting that you are being divinely guided and divinely protected at all given times.
And building that trust, I think, is probably one of the biggest parts of, what most people call psychic development.
Yeah,
is
absolutely.
Working and building the trust, because that's the only way that you can really jump into it. I mean, it's very rare that somebody will just jump in to all of this without having to have some experiences along the way to really have that full trust. Because there's a lot of faith that's involved in that. And
absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, because that ego mind hijacks so much of it, that ego self of ours, which I love you, ego mind, by the way. I've called my ego mind Jane, and we have a great relationship. She doesn't get as in my face as she used to. She used to hijack everything, oh no, don't, that's not safe. And so now her and I have a good working relationship. But for most of us, that ego mind, it's coming in and saying, oh, this stuff is weird, or you're going crazy, or you can't do that. People, whatever, whatever the story or the narrative is that the ego mind has, brought up from the subconscious. So, building this relationship with the ego mind will directly help you build trust in your gifts, because the ego mind won't be intercepting and saying, oh, do you really think that? You won't be questioning as much. And your discernment, the process of being able to know whether this is coming from ego or coming from spirit becomes more clear once you really start to get that ego mind in check. So, that's one of the powerful tools for me, at least, as I leaned into that discovery for myself. Yeah. And that's another way of sharing love with ourselves, is by loving the ego mind, but also letting it know where the boundaries are.
Yes. Well, isn't boundaries a big part of love?
It's a huge part of love. Yeah. It's a huge part of harmony as well for us. Mm-hmm. Right. Because as we step into this world and we're, not setting boundaries, that's usually from a people pleaser standpoint, FYI, right? Yeah. I'm a people pleaser, so I can relate to this. And so, I would say yes, even when I meant no. And then I'd be resentful, right? That I did, that I said yes. And I'd be mad at myself, usually more than I was mad at the other person, right?
Yeah.
But then that energy was seeping into that experience, of course. And then that was blocking me and clouding me and all of those other things, right? So I think to truly love yourself is to have the courage to set those boundaries, even at the risk of disappointing other people. And I think might be a Brene Brown quote that says something to that effect, that, loving yourself enough and is having the courage to set boundaries, even at the risk of disappointing others, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a powerful one for everybody. Yeah.
And that's probably one of the toughest lessons that we all learn, because we're so programmed with, living up to everybody's expectations.
Yeah.
And,
setting boundaries totally is also an act of love for others.
Yes.
Heck yes, it is. Not just for ourselves, but for others. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
So we have a beautiful comment here from a Facebook user. This is likely coming from one of our private groups. Thank you, ladies, for your wonderful teachings, your humor, reminders of love, balance, integrations, and non-duality.
That's beautiful. Oh, we feel the love. We feel it. Thank you.
We feel the love. Absolutely.
That's great.
And we are coming to the close of our show.
Yes. What a wonderful way to kind of end with a beautiful comment like that.
It is. Yeah. So I just want to thank everyone for coming, all of you that watched and all of you that will be watching, and just so honored to have you here. I keep wanting to call you Dee, but
I call myself Dee. It's okay. DeeAnne, Rose, whatever.
That's how we met. So super happy to have you here, Dee Rose, and
perfect.
D/Rose.
Yeah.
Super thrilled. It was so great to have you here. Looking forward to working with you in whatever way Spirit points us. And And so thank you so much for joining us today. And how
you.
about you let people know where they can reach you, please?
Thank you so much, both of you. I've loved this, and I can't wait to spend more time with both of you. Well, you know, I have a little gift. I like to give away my time. You know, a quote by Dr. Edith Egger. She was a survivor in the Holocaust, and her quote is this. She says, "Love is a 4-letter word spelled Time." And so I'd like to give my time away. And so I'm offering people a complimentary session with me, and you can come and experience the Akashic Records. So if the Akashic Records has been calling you, I think maybe what I'll do is I'll give you the link, Tanis, and you can throw it in the notes. So that'll be in the notes for people to jump on there. And so rosehope.ca is my website. So you can always go and explore me a little bit more there, rosehope.ca. But we will get that link to book in a session if you're interested in learning a little bit more. We'll put that in there for you as well. So yeah,
awesome. Awesome. So thank you so much. And Jen, do you want to tell people where to get you, please?
They know where to find me. You can find me on Twillow. You can find me on myholisticselfcounseling.com. You can find me on Facebook at, and I never get this right, Holistic Self Counseling, because it's the one weirdo. Or Jennifer at myholisticself.com.
Our handles, we picked them early on in business.
Right? Oh my God, I love it. It's so good.
Awesome. And so we have some great stuff happening. So keep your eye on twillowlifestyle.ca for any of the workshops and stuff coming up. Lots coming in the next few weeks, next few months. So keep an eye there, and keep an eye on rosehope.ca for any of her awesome workshops as well. And we'll thank you all for being here. And we wish you a wonderful week. We're sending you lots of love and light.
I love it. So much love to you guys.
Thank you all. Bye.